So, I saw the whole 20 Christians versus one New Ager, which is hilarious because Jasmine is not even a New Ager. Um, and a lot of these practices too that I just want to start this off by saying real quick. A lot of these practices that are deemed New Age are actually very old. Okay. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But I want to make this topic as brief but as clear and respectful, but also firm as possible. Because my entire life, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, okay? Um, Practically since I was about 5 years old, I have been demonized in some way for very natural, very innocent, very what I would think would be beautiful forms of expression. And all the things really that I believe God put us on the earth to be and do and all that good stuff. And all because I didn't conform to the established belief system in my household. But not only in my household, this has happened throughout my travels and experiences and adventures in spirituality. That's a blog waiting to happen, or a podcast name waiting to happen. Adventures in Spirituality. Um, and boy, have I had many. Um, this is not me really going after a particular belief system. It's more me trying to get the attention of all belief systems because we all want the same things. We're all here debating and pointing fingers and demonizing, and yet if we just stopped for a second and we stopped being religious, if we stopped labeling ourselves, if we stopped all of this realistically egotistical nonsense, we'd realize we all want the same thing. We'd realize we all do the same things, just in different ways, if that makes sense. But we're all doing the same things. I'll give you an example. I think I've spoken on this already, like a while back, but I'll say it again because it's a wonderful example. Okay. I worked at a metaphysical store, all right, with my best friend at the time. And I overheard her and another friend of ours talking crap about church rituals, right? Specifically the act of confession, and saying how ridiculous this is, and why should I have to go to a middleman to talk to God, and yada yada blah blah blah. And I just sat there in silence, shaking my head, because I'm just like, we're literally going to do this while we also sit here and act as middle women, right? If you want to be politically correct. But we act as, intermediaries, right? Vessels, whatever you want to call that. And yeah, we're going to demonize the way another person goes about it. Right. So, of course, I said that. I said, then, okay, if that is your belief, then we should close the store down and not do any of what we're doing. And she was like, well, what do you mean by that? And I was like, well, because we're doing the same thing they're doing. It's just a different way of doing it. It's just a different name. It's a different practice, but it's the same concept. Someone is coming to us as a bridge between the physical and the spiritual to help them through something. All my years when I went to the Catholic Church and I went to confession, I never had a bad experience. Now this is not to say that others have not had bad experiences with their priests, but this is also not ruling out the fact that others have had bad experiences with other witches, other priestesses, other Reiki practitioners, other massage therapists, other, you fill in the blank. Okay? Because I've had bad experiences with all of them, but I've also had really good experiences with them. Okay? And quite frankly, I don't give a shit what your label is. Never did. It's your character I give a shit about. Because you could be a crystal healer, you could be a teacher, you could be a meditation guru, whatever you think you are, and you could still be really shitty. But you could also be a priest and a rabbi or a Buddhist or a monk or whatever, and you could still be really shitty. At the end of the day, I think we all want the same thing. And I think what makes us or turns us into shitty representations of what we're trying to do is the fighting over who is right over the other. We want so badly to be right that we will sometimes do the most asinine shit to force that idea. It's ridiculous. Years ago, I remember I was just out of high school and I woke up from a nap. I had to get ready for work in a few hours, and I had heard a story of people brutalizing another human being all because he was gay. And I don't want to go over what they did to this poor dude, but it was torture. And yes, the person passed because of the amount of torture he endured. And I'm not going to go into any more. All because they wanted to prove their point that being gay is bad. But murdering someone is totally fine. And in their book, according to their personal religious beliefs, doesn't it say thou shalt not kill? But because in your idea, God hates gay people, so God would want you to kill a gay person. No, no, he wouldn't. She wouldn't, they wouldn't, whatever you want to call God, would not want you to do that. So, and yes, I have seen things in the pagan community, the spiritual community, the holistic community, even the new age community, of people doing horrible things to prove that they are the right way, to prove that they are better. And it's like, okay, but what got you into this in the first place? Wherever you are, whatever you practice, whatever you believe, what led you there? Because that is your root. That should be your focus. Not trying to force convert people, not trying to demonize people because they don't look at things the way you do, not trying to ruin people's lives because they practice something that weirds you out and you just don't want to do the research on it. What is the root of what brings you to your spiritual path? And in that root, you will find God every time, no matter what it is. And I hate to break it to some of y'all, but even demons are angels. They just got different jobs. And I'll get to that in another video. But even they are not what we've been taught. The word Satan refers to the word Satan, which was used as it could be a slur or just a, what's the word I'm looking for? As a judgment against someone else for being what they deem to be either a rebel or to being defiant, or you put in that negative term, right? Satan was a term used to accuse someone of straying from whatever. You fill in the blank, okay? Satan is not an entity. Okay? Satan is a term. And I'll leave that there. And you can go, if you decide to not be lazy. You can go and do more research on that. Um, we all need to, in my opinion, just stop it with the religion. We just it's because realistically, if you didn't have your religion to cling to, would you still do good things? Would you still tell the truth, or would you lie more? Would you still try to help people? Or do you do it because you want some badge of honor, or you want God to say, good boy or good girl? If you are hiding behind your religion, you are just a bad person on a leash. If you need your religion to tell you to be a good person. But at the end of the day, I really don't think people are as bad as we think. I think what turns us sour is all of this fear and all of this, my side is better than your side. And we like to cherry pick things to nurture and coddle the reality we want to force down people's throats. I'll give you another example. I don't know who posted this. I don't remember. I just saw it reposted. So, and obviously I'm not going to mention their name anyway, but I really don't remember. It was just something I saw. I don't know if it was a friend of mine or if it was a page I follow. And, you know, it was actually very surprising to me that this person would share this, because I do remember, yeah, I think it was one of my friends. I'm trying to remember. Yeah. But it was very surprising considering the fact that it was so divisive and just leaning towards a certain narrative. And this was not something I expected from this page or person. That is what I remember feeling, because apparently this person looked up that, if you look up, what do I do if I'm alone with a black person? What do I do if I'm alone with a Hindu? What do I do if I'm alone with a Buddhist or whatever? And supposedly all of them said, there's nothing wrong with being alone with a black person or a Buddhist or this or that. But then they looked up, what do I do if I'm alone with a Christian? And then it said, oh, you should call 911 immediately. So, of course, me being the Virgo rising a-hole that I am, because I'm analytical and I need to get the facts before I just go, oh my God. I looked it up myself, all the things, all the prompts, and it literally said the same thing for all of them. It did not say for the Christian, oh, you should call 911 immediately, or if you feel like you're threatened. It says that at the end of all of them, actually. It says you do not have to be afraid. Everybody practices different beliefs or whatever it said. It said, but if you do feel unsafe around a person, if you are feeling unsafe currently, you should go to local authorities. So it kind of felt like either this person found these pictures on another post and shared them without thinking, or kind of copied and pasted what they wanted. And that was kind of surprising to me. Well, not surprising, because it didn't surprise me. It was more disappointing. So we have to stop being so reactionary to things, and we have to do our research, and we have to use our discernment. And at the end of the day, stop exhausting ourselves when realistically we all want the same thing. We are all petals of the same flower. Okay? Just those petals grow in different directions. One may look more fuller than the other. One may have a brighter color than the other. One may be on the bottom. One may be more towards the middle. One may be closer to the stem. One may be closer to the center. One may be falling off and wilting, and being food for the earth. Like, either way, we are all petals of that same flower. That doesn't make the flower less beautiful, less useful, less meaningful, less colorful, less beautifully perfumed and scented. Like, the flower continues to be a flower, even though the petals are all a little different. The stem and the root are the same. And they spread. Roots spread. A root is not just one fucking root. It's multiple, So what if we just looked at it that way? Like all of us are not only petals of the same flower, but our roots go in different directions, yet we anchor that life here on earth with the foundation of our true beliefs and how they support us and life on earth as it is. How are we beautifying earth with our beliefs? Because clearly we all want to do that, but we've been taught to fight and divide and nitpick each other and all that stuff, all for what? Really ask yourself, what am I doing this for? What do I really want to do? And at the end of the day, you just want to beautify the world, your world, and the world around you. And you can do that by still practicing what you do and making sure you practice what you preach and allowing that belief to better you and therefore be a better person to other people too and to the world around you. And you can let other people do the same, and wow, look, you still breathe the same oxygen as they do. You're not dying because you and they believe something different, and yet you can still exist in the same freaking world. Like, come on, y'all. Come on. Take your beliefs, take your supposed virtues, right, that you live by, and how about we take a look at the real facts of what exists around us and that our country is run by evil people, truly evil people. Not your neighbor who has a statue of Santa Muerte on their altar and does a rosary. Okay? Not your neighbor who hugs trees and collects crystals. Okay? The people that you all voted for because you were conned into voting like it fucking matters. Those are the people that are trafficking your kids and cannibalizing people and feeding them to you through McDonald's and Burger King and Taco Bell, and you still go and participate in the ritual while at the same time trying to demonize another person for just quietly, peacefully, and lovingly practicing their faith and praying for the world and themselves and their family, trying to break generational curses, honoring their ancestors that walked before them. You're more concerned about that person than the people that are feeding you in a ginormous evil ritual, that they're feeding you human flesh, and you're okay with that. You're okay with munching on that rather than taking a few minutes of your time to digest some actual research rather than react and go with the hive. Come on, y'all. Do better. Don't let the programming out there convince you that you're stupid. You're not stupid. Let's work together. Let's learn from each other. I find that beautiful and fascinating. Yeah, are there people out there that practice things I don't? Absolutely. But I'm still fascinated to hear about them. I still believe they deserve to live and walk the earth and enjoy a sunset and go to the beach and eat delicious food and make love and enjoy their families and read a book and breathe the air that I breathe. Like, I still believe that they deserve those things because they're here by a miracle and they deserve to live out that miracle in peace. There's tons of other things out there trying to disrupt and disturb our peace that we should and could and can be putting our efforts and energy towards instead of hating one another because we believe differently. When realistically, at the core, I'm going to keep drilling that in. You all believe the same thing at the core of your being. You are all going in the same direction. So let's stop fighting and hurting each other on the way there.